Alright folks, we are in our next video in the series of raising Muscovy ducks from start to finish. We are currently looking and focusing at the transition from brooder to actual duck house, and looking at week 2 to week 3 old ducklings. So as mentioned previously, we are looking at a mixed flock here, and they are in napping mode, which means that kind of hard to see the Muscovy ducks. They're the slightly larger ones. All the ones in front here are the ones that we've seen in other videos that aren't Muscovies, but there's the other ones right there. You can see the eye stripe on that one, that light-headed one there, and one underneath. Those are going to be the Muscovy ducks we follow for the rest of the series. And so now we are actually inside their outdoor home for when they are adults. As your Muscovy ducks reach 2 to 3 weeks of age, they are just fine to be outside in pretty much any weather. And they are gonna be double or triple in size from what they started. And from 2 to 3 weeks old, you might start to see the size difference between males and females. Again, if these ducks were running around, you'd be able to see there is a size difference between this light one here and the two darker ducklings that we are quite sure the lighter one is a male. They will start to get bigger sooner, and at this point there's not too much of differences to tell besides size in males and females. Some people think the bill shape is a little bit different, that the males have a bit more of a rounded top to their beak. It looks a little bit more masculine, but you really won't be able to tell too much until they get into the 3 to 4 week age for sure. And so what we're looking at here in an outdoor enclosure, it's basically the same thing as a brooder except bigger. So we want to make sure that we've got good airflow, enough space for all of them to be moving around, which we have. We want to have a source of food that doesn't get wet, so make sure whatever your food container is has a cover. These auto feeding types are awesome. Same with water. You want to make sure that they have full access to it. If you're in a cold region, you want to make sure it's not going to freeze. You're going to want to make sure that they have access to some ground. There's people out there saying you might need grit for your ducks. I've never used grit. It's been totally fine as long as they have access to some organic material and the ground itself. You don't really have to recreate that, especially if they have a larger run, which over time these ducks will be able to graze in garden areas, and so they'll get a chance to eat bugs and leaves and have a nice variety in their diet as well. You won't have to worry so much about that. Also, I love these little touches of enrichment. If you want to put little toys and see if they like to engage with anything, that's wonderful. And from time to time, offering them treats of fresh greens of all kinds. Young ducks, all ducks really, love watermelon, love peas, love bugs. So any combination of those will be more than welcome from your little ducklings. And in terms of behavior, very similar to week 1. You'll see running around, you'll see them kind of pecking at each other a little bit. You probably won't see too much individual personality at this point unless you've got, a really excited one or a really chill one. You're probably not going to see like a pecking order really happen. This is a good time to, this flock sort of just came together recently, so we got some new, some old, and they bonded kind of flawlessly, so they don't really care about group dynamics yet. And so as you're going through weeks 2 and 3, my recommendation is to keep having regular contact with your ducklings, start exposing them to some of the normal sights and sounds and rhythms of your space so that they can get used to them. So, don't be afraid to use power tools, or if it's 4th of July and, there's some firework action, just introducing them to those things gets them attuned to it as young birds, and they won't care as much when they're adults. In terms of the enclosure, you definitely want something strong enough to withstand your local predators. So step 1 would be to find out what your local predators are and then build accordingly. That might mean that you don't need a tremendously strong cage, or you might. You might not need to put your chicken wire down into the ground, you might. If you don't want to put anything down into the ground, you can layer an outer barrier of like pavers or something to stop things that can dig. But in essence, you do want to make sure that nothing can really get in or out once you close them up every night. And it doesn't hurt to design your space in a way that if you wanted to, you could set them up with enough supplies for a couple days and that they would be just fine without you in terms of space, in terms of how much water, how much food. And so those are all just things to think about as you design what works for your space and your animals. And hopefully that was clear and helpful. Let me know if you have any questions, put them in the comments. Thanks.